Brainerd, Nisswa Lakes region and beyond. He can boast 70-plus years of heavy-duty angling, plus nearly 50 years of formal pace-setting guiding experience. Now in his late 70s, Royal is still busy and popular full-time guide thanks to his fishing expertise and great people skills. Royal's deep immersion in Minnesota fishing began as a 5-year-old dock fisherman in 1942 at his grandparents' resort on Shirt Lake near Deerwood. Kid fisherman Royal spent his summers fishing daily, rowing, motoring, exploring, and learning successful fishing patterns. Boat renters and resort patrons often relied on that fishing smart kid for guidance. In 1959, Royal's fishing and guiding reached multiple lakes plus the Mississippi River. In the late 60s, Royal Carls became an early member of Marv Kep's Nisswa Guides League, working with the likes of Alan Ron Linder, Harry Van Doren, Helly Swenson, and Gary Roach. Royal enjoys his present and longtime connection with Craig's Resort on Gull Lake, his decades of multi-species fishing, with a strong focus on bass that help promote the angling sport and fishing-related tourism. In the 1970s and 80s, eager to connect with youngsters, easy to connect youngsters with angling, Royal and his fellow teacher Gene Hansen conducted summer outdoor education classes for Brainerd grade schoolers. Along with his open water fishing and guiding, Royal's ice fishing mania has set him on Brainerd Nisswa area lakes, Mille Lacs, and Lake of the Woods. Royal Carls is featured in Ray Gildau's 2005 book, Legends and Legacies, A History of the Nisswa Guides League, and in Joe Falagy's 1982 book, Classic Minnesota Fishing Stories, a rare collection, first-hand accounts, anecdotes, and reports. Please welcome to the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame, Mr. Royal Carls.
Thank you very much. This is a tremendous honor. Being inducted into the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame is just a tremendous honor, and one that my family and I cherish. And I'm so glad they're here today. I think you just covered my whole talk. Anyway, at age 78, I've got a lot of people to thank along the way. And part of my talk today, I'm going to touch on some of those. At my grandparents, my mother not only let me go there, but she urged me to go to my grandparents, and I stayed there from age 5 to through high school. And I really developed a passion for fishing there. And when I was about 8 or 9, I started with that cane pole on. I didn't have the drop on; I had the cane pole. And some days I wish I still had a cane pole. But I started about 8 or 9 with a bait casting rod. It was a metal rod, Fluger reel, and that heavy black line. And my favorite lures were the Shakespeare mouse, the Creek Chub plunker, and the Johnson silver minnow and pork frog. And I went around that lake exploring, learning. And as I got a little older, I realized what a fabulous sunfish and bass lake it really was. The bass, it was one of those lakes where the bass lived a long time and really got good size. And I developed that passion for fishing there that was just unbelievable. Sometimes after World War II, people really started coming in bigger numbers to Shirt Lake, and my grandfather got more and more boats to rent. They were all wooden boats. And sometimes if people had reservations about where to go or what to do, he would say, well, see that kid over there standing on the dock, get him, have you row him, he'll row you around me, he'll take you to all the best spots. And sometimes they give me $1 or so, and I just love it. In 1969, fast forwarding, I got a call from Marv Kep, and he asked me if I would consider guiding. And I said, absolutely. So I went up and I met with Rod Romine and Marv, and then they let me know that I could start guiding them. And I started that opening day in '69. And in that first couple of years that I was at Marv's, there was the late great Harry Van Doren, Cully Swenson, Max Slocum, Ron and Al Linder, Rod Romine, Gary Roach, Rod Christopherson, and Dick Young. And those guys, what a formidable group. I mean, those are some of the best guys to ever throw a line in a lake, any place. I learned so much there. It was just unbelievable. Rod Romine showed me a lot of lakes. Al Linder, I watched Al Linder. I only guided with Al one year, Rod and Al. I kept my eyes and ears open, and boy did I learn a lot from Al Linder, especially on North Long Lake. And then Gary showed me Pelican Lake and so many others. We went on trips together, had a lot of fun, good laughs, good times. And those are memories I'll never forget. Marvin Judy had just a fabulous bait shop there. And for people that like to fish, that was just a magical place. I mean, they came there to see the guide boats, the green boxes. Marvin Judy had a big fish contest. We took all those pictures of all those fish in those times. And they booked so many trips, we were busy every morning and every afternoon. And we got a lot of people from out of state, and they were always curious. There wasn't the information about Minnesota wasn't out there like it is now. And people asked about winters, how cold they were, how thick the ice was. They were just shocked to know that we drove out on the lakes. And one of the things they would always get around to asking me what I did in the winter when I wasn't guiding. They were always deflated a little when they found out I was a fishing guide. When I was a school teacher. And it was even worse when they found out I was an elementary teacher. They would kind of roll their eyes and they were expecting more. And so I thought, I don't really have to tell them I'm an elementary teacher when they asked this. And they asked this almost every trip that we took out. And so I thought about the history of Brainerd, and I thought, maybe I should just tell them I'm a logger, because Paul might So the next day I had a gentleman from Iowa and his son, and I'm just cruising into a nice spot that Al Linder had showed me on North Long Lake, and we were going to start fishing cabbage. And the guy turns around and he said, well, what do you do when you're not guiding in the winter? And I said, in my deepest possible voice, I said, I'm a logger. And he spins around and he said, so am I. And I said, you can't log in Iowa. So, flying by the seat of my pants, he says, what kind of chainsaw do you like? And I said, a McCulloch. And he said, what kind of trees do you cut? I said, poplar. And he said, well, when you find that great big tree, what kind of chainsaw do you? And I said, the big McCulloch. Where do you take these trees, and how much do you get a cord? So finally I looked at his son and I said, you hear that fish jump? We got a fish. And I'm not a big talker. I talked for 4 hours. I talked about ice fishing, deer hunting, everything. And I got down to the last 6 or 7 minutes and I named every hot dish that I liked. We got back and I thanked them and I said goodbye. And I got out the next day. We were guiding every day. I got in the next day at noon and we're going. I'm taking my people in. I'm taking their fish back to the cooler. And I'm looking over and there's a guy leaned over talking to Marv and he's real animated. His arms are flying and all of a sudden he freezes. And he whirls around and he says, I knew you were no logger. I couldn't wait to get back to being an elementary teacher. In the early 70s, we talked about this last night with Joe Felici. Superintendent of schools announced that there was extra money for creative classes. And I immediately thought of a fishing and outdoor ed class. And I went to Gene Hansen, who was a friend of mine, a mentor of mine. And the numbers came in for that class that were way over 100. We split it into 2 classes, and every other day we fished from shore in various spots, did all kinds of activities. Gene and I got licenses to drive buses. I think that we had about 60 kids in each class. And the highlight of the class was going down to Early Bird Resort at the end of our session. And I was guiding then at Mars, so I did this class in the morning and guided in the afternoon. But there we met up with Joe and Steve Feligy. And my family and friends had guided or fished with Joe. Diane and I and the kids, friends of ours from out of state had always fished. We always had fun. But I didn't realize those guys went out 150%. And we were down there, I think, 3 different years with that class, and we got limits, I think, every time. And Joe showed one of those stringer pictures last night. It's unbelievable. But one of the fascinating things about those classes, 4 kids from those classes went on to become fishing guides. John Stolsky, Lee Johnson, Richie Boggs, and Tom Briggs. That wasn't because of our fishing class, but because of their parents and their dedication, and their passion for fishing, I'm sure. But that still is just a fascinating side note there. I also have to thank my family. I have to thank my wife, Diane, for hanging in there all those long days of fishing and guiding that I wasn't there. Our entire family has gotten involved with fishing, especially the grandkids. And our 3 sons, Sam, Mitch, and Steve, fished up and down the river with me, the Mississippi River near our home when they were young, and they just became river rats and went on their own fingers. We fished so many lakes for bass, and we fished Mille Lacs both the winter and in the spring, and had so much fun. All 3 boys had a hand in guiding. Sam guided with me at Mars when he was in high school and did just a fabulous job. He also guided in Alaska for many years. And one of the things my family is so familiar with, and I'm almost paranoid about this, is every time we get even a decent lake, I'm saying, don't tell anybody about this lake. And it's worse if it's a fish house, if it's a permanent fish house, don't tell anybody what lake we're on. So Mitch and I found this lake that had a fabulous spawn and hatch of bass. And these bass were about a pound and a quarter. And he has triplet daughters, so we took the girls out there when they were about 7. And I said, I don't have a camera. And he said, let's go fishing anyway. So Mitch cast for 2 of the girls, and I cast for 1. And they're catching 2 and 3 at a time. It doesn't make any difference for us. We shore break if you're on a sunken island. We were just hauling them in. And finally, I couldn't stand it. I said, I got to run to shore and run down. There was a store a country store about a mile away. So I went to get a throwaway camera. This is years ago. And when I got back, this was a story. A guy had backed his boat in, and he looked over at Mitch and he said, have you been fishing? And Mitch said, sure. And he said, how did you do it? Did you catch it? And he said, we got a couple. And see, that's the way I schooled Mitch. It's like low ball. Just kind of not too excited. And about 3 seconds passed, and one of those girls came flying up off that boat seat and said, oh yeah? I have caught 20. My sisters have caught quite a few too. When my grandpa gets back with that camera, I'm taking a picture with the 21st one I catch. Sometimes kids are too young to get that picture about being quiet about the lake. I also would like to thank Dutch and Irma Craig. I'm nearing 25 years of guiding there. Dutch and Irma are just 2 of the greatest people I've ever met. I think some of the guides are here today. I know they are. Mike Zahar, Bruce Fremstead, Bob Gessel, Butch LaVoy, guys that guide with me there. We have so much fun, and those guys are so good with the customers there. It's just, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for coming. Down through the years, my guiding has kind of evolved and changed. I'm doing more families and kids, and I've gone more and more to catch and release bass fishing. And all I tell them when we start out is I can take you over to this lake a few miles away, and you're all going to catch lots of fish, but we have to put them all back. About 90% of my people are good with that. And I tried more and more, as I'm 78 years old, more and more I try to put my rod down. I want the families, and especially the kids, to have fish, to catch the fish. I want them to have the fun and enjoy this. We probably average, I mean, there's no days, 2 days that are alike, but we're averaging somewhere 30, 35 fish. And for people, and lots of these people have fished very little, so that's just a tremendous deal. I cannot wait for the 2016 season to start I'm one of the lucky people that gets to do what they love. That's being on the water and fishing. I try to pass that passion along to the people that I guide. Thank you so much for this tremendous offer, this honor that my family and I will cherish. Thank you.